There's just no tolerance left for it.
Good morning.
Good morning. Let's see, something happened with Zoom. Share screen, join, I'm on audio. I don't have a picture though.
I don't think any of us do right now. Not sure why.
No, not at all.
Can you help me, Bill?
Start videos right down there, but
Oh, okay. I'm in. Hey, Margot.
Oh, hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good. Are you back home or still in DC?
I am still in DC. I decided well, I was going to leave after the meeting today, but then I just decided to stay till tomorrow. And
Good. How's your daughter doing?
she's good. She's
Good.
good.
Great.
She's sore. She had a lot. From when she rode in college, she has some like a long-term, hip injury.
Yeah.
So anyways, it kind of, all of this has re-aggravated that.
Yeah.
Morning, Bonnie.
Good morning. I lied.
Good
I
morning.
didn't have the link.
Hi.
What'd you say?
I just emailed you and said, oh my gosh, I don't seem to have the link for the meeting. And then I proceeded to find the link. So you can ignore my email.
Bonnie, I want to congratulate you on a wonderful tree lighting.
Oh, thank you.
Super fun to watch, and you just gave it some super good energy.
Well, thank you. You know, the fun thing that we're kind of all discovering this year, there's other things that we can do. And so what's really cool is in the future, we're going to always stream it live. You know?
Yeah, for people that don't want to go downtown, or let's say it's a really crummy year. Yeah, I think it's great.
Well, and we had people putting, I don't know if you looked at the comments, like we had somebody say they were watching from the UK.
I saw that. Yeah.
So we had
It's
so many
awesome.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very
Harbor
fun.
Springs is much beloved in the hearts of many, even if they're not with us physically.
Yeah. Well, and winter isn't traditionally when those who love us are with us.
Oh, the really important people are here, though.
That's right.
I lean really close. You can see me better. Is
I
it
have
cold?
my subtle morning lighting on here. Bonnie, your lighting is really good. Do you have stage lights and all that kind of thing set up?
Oh, well, of course.
Of course.
I did bring in some of my own lights to sort of tame the crazy overhead stuff that's in the office. I don't know if you all can see, Angie and her daughters decorated.
It's so cute.
This is
Yeah,
my
it's so
office.
cute.
Yeah.
Will they come to my house?
I know. I came in They were here on Wednesday of last week, and I came in on Saturday, and the whole place, it was like it just exploded. It was really cute. Yeah, very cool.
Yep.
Hi,
Hi,
Dana.
Jen,
Hi, Bonnie.
Kathy.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Where's Kathy?
Hiding.
You can't
Depends on how
hide.
your screen's set up.
I can
Oh.
see myself.
I can
I
see
don't care if
Kathy.
you guys see me.
I can see
There, I
Kathy.
see John.
Donna's being very quiet this morning.
That way you can't hold anything against me.
Good morning, Mario, John, Kathy, Jody, Bonnie, Dana.
Good
Hi,
morning.
Victor.
Morning,
Hi,
Victor.
Victor. Where's your face?
It's covered by a mask, so you won't be able to see me anyway. I'm at City Hall.
Oh.
I'm here with Nick as well.
Hi, Nick.
Morning, Nick.
Morning, everybody.
Margot, did you get my message that I've enabled screen sharing for you?
Yes, thank
Oh,
you.
good.
Okay. Just test it out to make sure it works.
Okay.
Just,
Margot, are you coming back today?
No, I'm gonna come back tomorrow, I've decided.
Okay, all right.
Can you see that?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
It looks like an insurance bill for a car. No, I'm just joking.
it sure does.
A very big car. Hi, Kyle. Denny too. Hi, Denny.
Hello. Bonnie, good job keeping people away.
From this meeting? No, from the tree lighting.
I'll take that as a compliment.
No, I meant it as a compliment.
I
of course.
know you did. It's just it just sounds funny. Well,
I
thank
didn't-
you.
I didn't see that many, except maybe around Hilda's corner, but I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, people were pretty good. I had warned, Joe was my photographer, and I had said, if you pan the crowd, please make sure you avoid anybody who is not wearing a mask. Please just keep it focused. Yeah, people were pretty good though. I mean, it was such a bummer because it was it was the perfect evening.
Mhm.
God,
We watched it from the bluff and it was spectacular.
oh, good, good. Yeah. It's interesting. I was saying earlier that people are finding new ways to watch
Yeah.
these things and how to do these things, and pretty cool. The PA system went out right beforehand, which is why there was no PA.
Okay.
You just deal with it.
And boy did those church bells go on for a long time.
Yeah,
Oh
they
my
did.
God, that was hilarious.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's our little town.
it brought a little bit to the for the entertainment value, right?
Yes.
Sure did.
Got to have a couple war stories. That's not a war
And
story.
honestly, I can't even say if that's the worst thing that happens, because that really wasn't.
It was just humorous.
I couldn't
It was
have planned
charming.
it better, actually, because people, the comments were, "Oh my gosh, the church bells, they sound so lovely." You're welcome. We did that intentionally.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't have, Margot, is there a way for you to ascertain by phone and YouTube if we're close to a quorum? We're not on Zoom.
Victor can ask if there's anyone on the phone.
Am I
Hold on one
showing up?
sec.
Brian,
Brian.
you're here.
Your voice
Yeah.
is here, your picture is not.
Nikki is
Well,
on
let's
the
see
phone.
here. I'm new to Zoom.
We all are.
I thought Amy said she would be here.
Brian, is there a little video thing down in your toolbar at the bottom of
I
it?
know
There we go.
Tim is gonna
There
be
you
here,
are.
Okay.
and
Hi,
Tim
Hi,
is
Amy.
definitely coming.
There's Amy. She's coming on.
Oops.
And as
Good
mentioned,
morning,
Nikki
Amy.
is on the phone.
Hi, Nikki.
Josh and Nikki and Nikki are on the phone?
Well, Nikki is. I don't know
Okay.
about Josh.
Okay.
Well, I see
Let me
Amy.
check YouTube really quick.
Hi,
Hi, Tim.
Kyle.
Hi there.
Oh, that's Kyle.
Hi,
Hi.
Kyle.
Good morning.
Dennis.
I don't see any. This is hectic.
Josh and Nikki are on the phone?
No, just Nikki.
Okay, so
know
we're
who's
at a quorum
coming.
at the moment. Hi, Amy. Good morning.
There's
Hi,
Brian.
Amy.
Hi, Brian.
I'm,
Amy.
Hi, everyone.
hello, hello.
Good to see everybody's faces.
Morning.
It is. Minus masks. This is an unusual meeting for us. We can see
Yeah.
smiles. Okay,
Oh,
it is
hooray.
8:00 and we do have a quorum. So let's get rolling on our Zoom meeting and hope that by January we can see masks again.
Scott Reese is here.
Got Reese?
Is he on YouTube?
No,
I'll be right back.
Just type in DDA, you should be able to find it.
Okay. Let's roll into our agenda.
All right, should I call the roll?
Go ahead.
Kathy Breitner,
Here.
Matt Bugera, Tim Knapp, Todd Baker, Cody Eubank,
here.
Nikki Law, is it the phone?
Yeah,
Dana Mulder,
Here.
Brian Bedini,
Here.
and Amy Gillard. Here. And then who else? Do we have anybody else on the phone, Victor, or on YouTube that I need to record?
I only have Nikki on the phone. I don't see anyone on YouTube.
Oh, here comes Nikki by Zoom.
Hi, Nikki.
hey, I'm gonna
Okay.
jump on Zoom just to make it a little bit.
Okay, I'll take you off the phone.
Okay, let's move into our minutes of our November 12th meeting. Have we all looked at the minutes? Any comments or questions? Okay, may I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Okay. All right, moving into public comment section. We've got a couple people online. Anyone need to alert us or congratulate us on anything? Okay,
Scott, if you want to, if
Kyle,
Scott wants to talk, he needs to unmute himself.
and Kyle's on. Kyle?
Yeah, just real quick, I want to let everybody know that I have hired an administrative assistant to replace Yvonne.
Good.
And her name is, I'll bring her to one of the DDA meetings. Her name's Emily Breton. She currently works for the prosecutor's office. I'm excited to have her. She lives up in Atlanta. She has a 6-year-old daughter and her husband works at the jail. So I think she'll be a great addition, and sooner or later that will open back up here and you will be resourceful. But I'll bring her to one of the meetings, but she'll be a great addition to our staff.
Great, thank you. Looking forward to
Congratulations.
meeting her.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay, any other public comment? Then let's move into our committee updates. Margot, take the lead on this one. There's been a lot of action going on the last week or two.
Okay, first I'm just gonna do see if there's any COVID updates or city, any downtown updates or things that on the agenda that was there. The only one was obviously the Christmas tree lighting was very successful virtually. Thank you, Bonnie. Did you have anything you wanted to add from that, or with the things are going with the open house, or?
I don't think so. We're not officially doing the open house. We have the online catalog that is not getting as much traction as the first time around. I don't know if it's because some of the businesses now have their own online thing or whatever, but we at least have that out there to help with the staying and shopping locally. That's our big push through the end of the year, to just continue with the message to support your local businesses and support, everything local. And that's kind of it. We're trying to ease our way into the end of the year and ramp up for next year.
I really enjoyed the ability with the virtual tree lighting for so many people who have not been here to be able to see it. I think we've all learned so much from this experience as to what works, and we've made changes we didn't know we had to make, but they've worked. And that's one I hope that going forward we continue, because it was so helpful.
We will, and we'll also look at other avenues. We did get some feedback that there are people who are not on Facebook that wanted to see it, and I didn't get it together quick enough to be able to also do YouTube or do something else, but that is definitely, I'm very aware that we preclude some people because of Facebook, and we will stream live in the future, as well as continue to be live. Can't wait for next year.
Did you see the people's comments from Florida that have never seen the tree lighting before?
Loved it. All over the country. I mean, seriously, Kentucky, California, Arizona, New York, New Jersey, like it was great. Yeah.
Very cool.
It could be fun for other events that we have during kind of the off season too, just to give people a little look at their town.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, the steeple cam is fabulous.
It really is. Who knew?
I did not.
I know, none of us did. It's actually, Nick is an employee of the church. He's their IT person. I talked to him on the phone. He programs it. So it has an active kind of route throughout the day, and it'll stop for 15 minutes in certain places. But he programmed it to stop at 5:30 and continue to just focus down on Main at the tree. But it was awesome. It was awesome. So that's, something for all of us to keep in mind.
I sent the link to some friends of ours in Germany, the steeple cam, and he looked at it early one morning. He says, it looks pretty quiet. Johan's is not closed, is it? It's no, wrong side of the street. But it's the people who have connections here can look at that and remember how special our downtown is. It's great.
Yeah.
Okay, Margot, take it away.
Thanks.
City Hall is closed at least until next week, and then we'll just see where we go. Victor, did you want to add anything on that?
Yeah, I'll just say we're still operating. Staff is working remotely and a kind of a hybrid schedule in the office and remotely. We're still answering phones, answering emails, having meetings, setting up meetings with people when necessary. But the state health department order says that employees must work remotely if they can through December 8th. So our next couple meetings through December 8th will be remote, but then after that, we'll take it as it comes. We might, especially with the public hearing on the budget on December 14th, we'll probably want to have that one councils at the City Hall, but still encourage people to participate remotely. But as far as now, we are still working and operating. Just maybe it might be a little bit slower to get to some calls and some emails, but for the most part, we're operating fine. Thankfully, the Thanksgiving week was slow. We didn't have much traffic anyway, so kind of came the lockdown, but the orders to work remotely kind of came at a good time for us. So that gave us, Nick and I, more time to work on the budget. Stress-free.
Great. Okay.
Tim it keeps messaging me that he's having trouble. Is he waiting? It looks like it might be
connecting to audio.
Is he there?
He had trouble.
Oh, there he is coming. Okay.
Well, but it's not connecting to audio. Tim, if you can hear us like you did last couple of days, see if your cell phone works better. Okay, Margot, keep going.
All right. Sorry. Okay. Let's start on the Downtown Enhancement Committee update. Kathy, did you want to do the update?
Oh, boy. Yes, we've had actually a productive couple of weeks. There's been some there you are, Tim, behind the scenes work on the tree grade. So in a nutshell, we have gone back through the project as was bid and came back to us with price tags. And basically, we're removing all of the lighting options that we had in the bid package. We have another project that's part B that will handle those later. But in the meantime, we've honed it back to just the tree grates and the tree replacements. That's a possibility. The council can decide not to do that if they don't want to. So what we're going to ask council for is to go back out to bid as they suggested to us in the summer, back out to bid sometime soon. And then it should be much different numbers because we're going to pull out all the lighting, all of the, like, pulling up the strips of the sidewalk down the whole street to lay wiring is not going to happen. Pulling out the bricks and just look at the roughly the ballpark package that council wanted us to deal with, which is 100,000. And, you know, if with the trees, which was not in the original conversation from that it'll be higher, but that could be a decision that can be made by council at that time. I think we've really got it back to where we kind of began, which was just the grates. And if we're all okay with this, we're going to go ask council if we're good to go back out for bid.
Kathy, did you want to mention we're taking a little different approach on tree removal and tree installation?
Well, we are, you know, that we can do yes, there's a way to do the tree removal more effectively, and it'll all be spelled out in there. I mean, again, I think we've sharpened the pencil, and, you know, in my mind, part of what derailed us is that we added so much into this just to know, and I needed to know those things, that the sticker shock was too much for council, and that's why it went awry. I'm not unhappy that we did that because we know, but it did slow us down. So yeah, we're going to take a different approach, you know, and Dan, Margaret and I talked after our meeting. Council might not want to spend that money on those trees, and that's their decision. If they want to keep these at the same spots where they are and replace the trees as they die, as they normally do, that's their choice. But we do need to have those costs for them to consider.
All right. I hope that we can make an argument that that's a little short-sighted. This is going to be a long-term project, and I just feel like we need to do it right, even if we eliminate some components like the brick border, for example.
I think we can, but I do want to have that cost figure in mind. So if
Kathy, I sent the committee a couple notes last night. One, I know we all want to get this done ASAP. Are we back right in the same position as we were the first time we bid it, where it's kind of short notice and we might only get 2 bidders? Would be better to wait and make this a fall project and get more bidders and lower prices?
I don't think so. I think that because we've removed so many components from this project, we're going to get more bidders than we had before.
Okay.
Also, we bid it last year. I believe it was in February.
We did.
March.
That was
so
really
it was very late. So a typical time frame would be
now
December,
Okay.
January, all of that.
Yeah. Right.
So that would make more sense for spring.
The other thing I mentioned too is, you know, we really hope that council will say, we'd like to pay for all of this. Do we want to have some idea in our back pocket?
Have you been drinking? They're not going to pay for all of it.
I don't think they're going to do that.
Well, then it might be useful to have something in our back pocket to say that we've talked about different ways to raise money. And I think, Kathy, do you want to fill everybody in? And we can't use DDA's money because
I think everybody understands this is not in our plan.
Okay.
So that, and you know,
so the money has to come other than our coffers. So
unlike other projects that we do, the reason we're so dependent on council on this one, because this is not in our plan. And since our monies only at the moment come from TIF and special assessment, we have to use those dollars for what we said we were going to do. This was an add-on And that is why council offered to pay for it and ask us to do the legwork for it. So I think we all get that. And, and we kind of talked briefly in our committee meeting this week. DDAs across the state largely have a longer term TIF timeframes. 25 years Traverse City just came out of. Obviously, things change and you can add them. You just have to find the funding for them. And we've discussed that before. We can do a variety of other ways to bring in funds. And once we know the price tags for this, then we can discuss those options. But I think we're in a good place. I feel much better about this, and I'd like to get the bids out, and I'm excited about the possibility of some new people bidding.
Just one more thought on that. Margot had sent, or she had discussed this project that Charlevoix is doing right now that's called Light the Streets or something like that, to raise funds to maintain their lighting in town. They're looking at doing some new lighting as well. And this would be a possible way to fund part of this project. Was we could have a Downtown Harbor Springs 2021 project, and for 500 to 500, you can be part of donating a tree. For 500 to 1,000, you can be part of donating a tree grate. So I just wonder if we ought to introduce that idea, because council may say, no, we don't think we should be asking money for people for this type of project, or asking money for, for this type of project. They say we want to pay for it all.
I doubt that. They've asked us before to find creative ways, but once we get the price tag for this, then we can dive into that.
Okay.
I think I'm at least dependent on those numbers to direct us to next steps. And then the part B to all of this is that we've pulled the lighting out, and we're back looking at some of the plans we saw a couple of years ago to, and this is in our plan, to replace the lamppost tops, the fixtures, to be more energy efficient, to look better, to possibly include a electrical outlet for the tree lighting. But we're very, very new into this. We just started the conversation to pull it out of the tree grate project, which it probably should have been before. So that will be a part B that the enhancement committee will be diving into.
Kathy?
Just one other idea on part 1B is we can use our money for Christmas tree lights, right?
Yes.
So that could be sooner than later.
Well, we need to find a way to, we can wire them. We can string the trees once we have new trees. We just can't connect them until we know how we're going to do that.
Kathy?
I think we need direct. I think both of you are right on the. We can look at using money to string the lights. This year, obviously, it's a moot point because they're already strung. But going forward, if they replace the trees, we could look at using that money to put them on there permanently. The other thing is that lighting project that comes in way over what anything the DDA has monetarily to pay for it. So I think we really need to work with council and the city to see where they want the DDA in that project, because we spent hours and hours with two different companies. They presented to council. We were going down that path heavy, and when the price tags came in at $250,000, we kind of backed off, and the city didn't know where the capital improvement budgets were going to be. And so I don't want us to work on it, city to work on it, and council to have a different idea. That needs to be somebody needs to do a good project management of that project to decide where we use our time, because all of us are volunteers. I mean, I'm not getting paid. I doubt you guys are for this meeting. So I don't mind doing it. I want to help the city, but we want to coordinate our efforts, I think, because if we come back to them and say, hey, this is the lighting project, this is what we think we should do, and here's the price tag of $300,000, what's that going to do? Because without direction from them, that's a waste of time.
Do we want to bring it up at this next meeting now?
I don't think the next meeting. Let's get the tree grates moving and then just work on this later.
Yeah. Let's do a laser focus on one thing at a time, I think.
I agree.
If we try to blanket it.
So are we okay then to go to council and ask for the bid on the tree grates?
We want to vote?
Do we need to vote on that?
I think we should vote that we're going to make that recommendation.
Okay. Can I have a motion to make a recommendation to council that we put this project back out for bid?
I'll make that
After we
motion.
explained to them, we stripped out everything that
Yeah,
we
we
feel
will.
we can.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Support?
I'll support.
Okay, all in favor?
Um,
Aye, okay. We will get back to you or chime in on Monday night's meeting to see where we go with this. I think they will be great about it because this is what they asked us to do.
Margot, will you do the presentation? Are you on the agenda then?
Yes, I am on the agenda. It's less of a presentation and more of an update in our recommendation at this point.
I don't want to dive too deep in this. I don't want to get derailed with side conversations at the council table. I just want to remind them of what we've done per their request, and we're ready to roll.
Do we want to include a picture that doesn't show bricks, that just shows
No.
our tree grate?
No.
No, let's just keep it, no pictures, no presentation.
I mean, I think we have to keep it simple and just go out to bid
Yeah.
with
let's get
everything
it out to
stripped
bid.
out and see what comes back. And then it'll come back, I think it'll come back at $150,000. And then the council has to decide, are we going to continue down this path or say, you know what, we're good with really ugly trees and ugly downtown and we're going to keep it the way it is. And that's their prerogative.
Well said.
Well,
Exactly.
I'll clarify from a city manager's perspective here is that I think when this came to council, and basically when Matt brought this up, the mayor, I guess a year and a half ago now, it was because his claim that the tree bases looked ugly. And I would just have to caution saying, if it goes above that $100,000 and it turns into, again, more than just the tree bases, which this was originally about, then, I mean, you might find yourself with, I don't know, more questioning and resistance. We have 2 new council members. I don't know where they stand on this. So I just think it's just wise to keep that in mind. I know that the DDA has on its plan, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Margot, is like downtown beautification. And I think the DDA was originally taking up like putting flowers or stuff at the tree bases, but the tree grates is beyond just beautification. So I get that, but just remember how this evolved. It started out with ugly tree bases and then went into a much larger project than that. So that's where the original $100,000 came from, was it would take $100,000 to do something with those tree bases. I just want to put that in perspective.
Thank you.
I mean, that's a great point, Victor. And we might say, if you guys want to, I mean, again, I think you're doing one thing in one hand and not doing the other. The total package, if you want to spend $100,000, I think we could get under there. We go back out to bid and we say, you know what, leave the trees where they are, leave the boxes where they are, just put a tree grate in there. I think you're going to get under $100,000. And if that's what they want the city to be of Harbor Springs, fine. If they want to look at a total package of what is the goal to do this, what is the goal of Harbor Springs? The total package would be, I would think, to standardize it, to make it look nice. But if their goal is just to maintain what we currently have, and we could probably get kids to paint tree grates on there, and do that every year for $100. I mean, I'm sorry, Victor. I disagree with the way that you're looking at the city. We got to look at the city as the whole big picture. And if it costs $150,000, but I agree, you have a good point. The way the council directed this last time, the mayor said, you're way over budget, you went over the amount you spent, and a lot of people don't think that the tree grates are even necessary. So I thank you for pointing that out, and maybe we should make sure we have a bid down and dirty, dig up the dirt, put a tree grate down there, and what that bid is. That'll be under 100.
Well, and I think Dana had a really good point though, too. Once we get this bid, the Lyric did donated seats. So I don't think that trying to get donated trees, I think that's a fantastic idea. And I think that the community would really rally with that. So if we do what Tim said and get a real down bid and go with that, and then turn to, and I agree that the city needs to look at this as a big picture project. You can't just do patchwork. And I think that's what we're seeing with this project and have been seeing since I've been involved in the last, 5 years. But I think that if we get the bid and if the trees and if the city only gave us 100,000, then that's what we've got to know in our heads is all that we're going to get. But I like the idea of fundraising for trees. I think the community would love that. And I think we could start once, do what Kathy said and do exactly that, get the bid and then go from there on how we can make this project possible without the DDA having the funds to be able to do it.
I think we have to be clear in our own minds, though, that this standardization is a big part of it. This is a legacy project. And, you know, like you said, Nikki, it's just like putting Band-Aids, really nice Band-Aids on things to do tree grates and leaving the old
Yes.
trees where they are with the spacing
Yes.
where it is.
But I do think that we could get the community to, if we needed trees, I think that that would be a really good, if we had a good committee and we really pushed, especially going into summer season, we could definitely, there's a lot of people that come into this town that really care about it and really care about the way it looks. And this has been a topic of conversation, not just among us, but from our community as a whole for the last at least 4 years.
Yes.
Well,
Well, I
And
think
the
what-
tree board itself, or the tree board, they have a lot of trees that have been donated. They already have a program going. We could reach out to them and say, hey,
That's a
by the
great
way,
idea too.
you're putting 2 more trees on 3rd Street or 3 more trees on 3rd Street, and then putting more trees throughout the community. Are those some of the trees that you could donate? You know, those donated trees go on Main Street, and we could take it out of those prices out of there.
Well,
We could
and
reach out to them.
we should definitely reach out to the tree board and cross work with them because they have so many connections as well. I mean, this is a project for the entire community, and all of the boards that should be involved really should be in making, like Dana said, this is a legacy project. This is something that's going to last way past any of us being on this board. So I think
The tree board is present and all over it, okay?
yeah. Of course,
Dana
yeah,
is
of
on the
course.
tree board, and part of the
Yeah,
reason
no, I knew that. Yeah.
we've been able to do some refining of the removal of the trees through some of their efforts. I hope in this bid that the cost for the olive tree removal and olive tree replacement is clearly a line item that we know could be handled differently. The only issue that Dana pointed out, which is I think is important, is the tree placement. Some of those tree wells are too close or too far from the nearest one. There are not a lot of them, but there are a handful that we would want to move. And while we're in there doing the cutting to make the spaces for the tree grates to fit, we can do that. We should.
We ran into that when we first started, when Cindy back in the day got the quote for the tree grates. That was part of the biggest problem, was just that, and then the centering of the trees and all of that. So
we got some things to learn. So let's see what happens after council on Monday with us. And then the enhancement committee will get back together and we'll update you.
Yeah.
Okay. Margot, next.
As we get into our budget today, Dana, you were talking about Charlevoix. What Charlevoix is doing is just looking to get, they think they're going to need $10,000 a year for maintenance and replacements of lights that have gone out. So and that was after 5 years. So we talked about that yesterday, that in the next couple of years, we're probably going to have to include 10 grand, don't you think, Tim, for maintenance and.
Oh, absolutely. We definitely.
And then, so this opens up another can of worms that we do need to have the conversation with, but I think we need to have council member Victor and Nick, and how are we going to do it? What is the DDA going to maintain? Are we maintaining the downtown? Because if we're going to maintain the downtown, that means we have to take over electricity, street plowing, street paving, parking lots. I mean, we don't. So where's the line that's drawn? Because with the one project we did, the parking lot. So we did parking lots, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Kathy, you remember. So those parking lots, now we are not plowing them, and we're not putting sand down in the parking lot. So where does that lie? I love the idea that Victor brought up, the idea to start talking about this, because I think it needs to be, we need to decide. If we want to run a balanced budget and not have the city transfer $30,000 to $40,000 to us every year and make it look like the DDA's redheaded stepchild, like I'm over here on 3rd Street, then we need to figure out how we're going to do this. So I know that different council members think differently about it. John, I've had a lot of conversations about you that we are the downtown development, so we develop things and then the city maintains them. If we want to start maintaining things, well, okay, so then let's for streetlights. Well, then we better pay for the electricity because they're downtown, right? If we're going to maintain them, where's that line and what are the people at that table that we have to come? Because that question comes up every meeting I'm at. So who do we talk to about that? Do we get the mayor?
Let's get a small work group together of Matt, maybe John Leo, Tim, you and I, we need to watch quorum on this, and Victor and Nick, and see if we can begin to come up with the questions that are hanging over everyone's heads.
That's a great idea.
We
get a small group together and figure out.
Margot, can you set that up? So 2 of us and 2 of them, Victor and Nick.
Us and them, huh?
Us and them.
Well, no, but I think what Kathy's saying is, Bagheera's not going to be mayor forever, and the next mayor that comes in may have a completely different idea of what council is willing to spend on projects. And we may even hear worse than you go out and get the bids and decide what you want to do, and then we have to pay for it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think we can also look at our neighbors and come back to the council with how it operates elsewhere, so that they know that we're not just making this up. We're still relatively new as a DDA. We're 8 years old now, in that we don't have a lot of infrastructure projects yet that require ongoing maintenance. So this is coming up now because we're just getting old enough that that's happening. So
And
now
yeah,
is the time.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Just now is the time that we need to be looking at that.
I was just going to say, now is the time, I think, to work with City Hall, which is a constant throughout all changes in council, to come up with a strategy, a long-term strategy.
Yeah.
So this doesn't keep coming up as a question, and there's a policy or an agreement in place as to how what the handoffs are going to be and how they're going to happen. If not, this is, as Nikki said, this is just going to keep coming up.
Yeah.
And that's a waste of everybody's time.
It is.
And I would agree. And if we had, as a DDA, had $300,000, I mean, we went over the budget yesterday. We're in the best shape we've ever been. But if we do pick up maintenance for everything, we won't have the money. But if I had $300,000 from parking meters, well, I'd be like, yeah, let's put up some Christmas lights and we'll take care of them and do it. Let's paint the town red on Valentine's Day and we'll pay for it. But we just got to figure out what strategy is for the long term, and that will change. But I think we need to have a combined group effort between City Hall, City Council, and the DDA of what direction we should go.
I think that's a great idea, and have some hard lines and drawn out to say, just so there's not, when we do come up with this stuff, this isn't a #1 focus that takes so much time trying to figure out who, what, where, when. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
We don't really have the expertise either. It seems like the expertise may lie with the city on a lot of the maintenance stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Well, it does a lot. That's just going to do it regardless of who pays for it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. We've got that rolling. We're going to have the meeting and we'll get that done in the next few weeks and have an update hopefully by the our next meeting.
Great.
Okay, Margot, take it away. What else you got?
Promotions Committee, the Ice Fest. We currently have 13 contracts for the small sculptures in, and then also in addition we have the Ice Throne contract. So we are moving ahead, and members of the committee and other members have started reaching out to some of the businesses that sponsored in the past and see if we can hit that goal that we were trying to hit of 20. So that's where we stand.
I'm sorry, I missed that. How many do we have now?
We have 13 signed contracts plus the contract for the Ice Fest or the Ice Throne.
The Throne, yep.
Did I read someplace that we did not have to pay Nikki, we did not have to pay $1,000 in liability insurance for the Ice Fest last year, did we?
We did have to have an insurance policy through the city. Margot would know how much that was, but we still had to have that rider. I just don't remember how much it was. But this
Was
year,
it for carving? Was it for carving though, live demonstrations, or was it just?
the liability policy was for the entire event. I wouldn't imagine that we would have to do something like that. I mean, we're
good
just
question,
having a
Mike.
walk around, but that would definitely be something I would ask the city if that's something that has to be done. We
Nick,
every other year.
Nick's online here.
Yes.
I see that it says we had to have $1,000 liability insurance for the chili cook-off.
Which we're not doing.
Well, and if we're not having a chili cook-off, I'd imagine that we don't have to have that liability policy.
I don't
And
think
if
we did not pay that last year for chili cook-off. We didn't need to. We
We
didn't have liquor.
Well, the liability policy, you know what, maybe we didn't. I'm remembering something with the
Brew Fest,
The-
you paid $800 to have the liability because of the
yeah, we
liquor,
had
beer,
to
and
do that,
wine.
but I don't think we had to with the Ice Fest last year because the church had their own policy that we could
Correct.
go under. So I don't think we had to, and I don't think we would have to this year because we're just doing sculptures on the street. So unless the city shows that that would be some kind of liability, that we would have to have an umbrella coverage through the city, I wouldn't imagine that we would have to have anything.
Victor, do you and Nick know if we paid this $1,000 last year and to whom and for what?
I know that we paid for the Ice Fest and we had to provide a certificate of insurance with Holy Childhood, the city as co-insured for the Ice Fest. I don't remember the exact dollar. Seems like it was $920, but
Wow.
could be mistaken.
Well, and I know that the carriage ride, they had to have their own policy, and the city requested that they were covered up to $1 million, and we did have to show proof for that. So,
Right.
but I didn't remember if we had to, what bill we paid last year for that, because I wasn't that involved with that last year.
Holy Childhood had their own liability insurance, and so did Rock on Ice.
And so did the horse
carriage.
people had their
Yes,
own
they did.
insurance.
Yeah,
So-
everybody had to provide their own proof, but with just having sculptures and there not being any live, again, Margot, maybe bring that up to see what the council thinks. But
There's
I mean,
two parts to this conversation. We want to know where that $1,000 that we spent in 2020 was directed, and we need to be able to budget appropriately for 21.
Well, we don't even know if we spent that $1,000 in 20.
That's part one.
That's what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
So the last email I'm looking at for the 2021 proposed budget was $1,000 in liability insurance on line item 911.000. And now the most recent one that I received from Margot shows a 0 in that line.
Okay,
So
Nick, this
we
is John
budgeted
Liddell.
about.
What I remember, Nick, is that because I was involved as the interface with Holy Childhood, they did require insurance coverage. They needed a rider that specifically covered the church and the diocese. But what I remember is you went to the insurance company and there was no additional cost for writing the rider.
Exactly.
Nick is getting that invoice right now, so when he
Yeah.
comes back, I'll have.
Okay.
Yeah, there was no, it was covered. They just needed specifics about the event and what they were covering, but I do not remember any incremental cost to the city.
Okay.
Tim, I think you're correct. I think that, Jody, I think you're looking at the initial line item that was there in the first budget that we sent out yesterday, that we looked at yesterday. And then I do think Nick has adjusted that from 2020. And
Well,
that
and if it might be too, when we first did this event, because we were coming off of doing an event like Brewfest, we did have to have a $1,000, an $800 or $1,000 policy. And I think when we did our first round of budgeting, we just threw that in there because we weren't entirely sure if we were going to have to do that again. So it may have just been something that we originally budgeted for.
Yeah, but my concern was that this is showing up as an expense we paid in 2020, and I want to know where it was. This is not just in budgeted, it shows that we spent it for this year. So that's an easy answer. Nick will get us the answer to that.
Right.
Can I bring up one more thing about the Ice Fest? I know we're not trying to get a lot of people downtown, but do you think it would be fun, or could we have some discussion about whether it would be fun to encourage restaurants to offer a chili special during the month of February?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Kathy,
That's a good idea.
I just want to go back, Kathy. The last budget that I emailed to you last night, the very last one, does not include that $1,000 liability insurance.
Correct.
As an expense or as a budgeted item?
Expense.
So it
As an
did go away.
expense.
Okay.
Yes.
And even I'm looking at the year-to-date, November 30th, year-to-date development fund, and the liability insurance shows year-to-date actual at 0, but
I see
budgeted at $1,000.
Right.
All right.
So the very last, my last email in the evening last night.
Okay, I see that.
Okay.
And then another part to that question that we discussed yesterday, and Victor could probably answer this, is we do want to make sure that all of us have appropriate coverage through the city for our board time. So there's, Victor,
So I'm not sure if individual DDA members are covered, but the DDA board as a board representing the city is covered, and so is staff. But I don't think individual board members have liability, are protected from liability. But I can get Nick when he comes.
If someone comes at one of us for a decision the DDA made, like for me, if I direct the board and we make a decision and someone comes after me as part of the decision group, am I not covered? One of the ZBA members has been sued on one of the, I think the Frudenberger suit.
So the ZBA board was the ZBA chair so when a board gets sued as a city entity, it has to have a representative of that board. So normally that's the chair, and that's in its official capacity. However, for example, if a staff member or a council member, because council members do, I believe, I'm sure, like do something negligent, they have insurance from the city. For example, if a DDA board member, other board members have some sort of negligence, they're not covered in that sense. So it has to be something. It's a little complicated, but if you have done something in your official capacity as a board member, I think you're okay because that's the board is being sued. Doing something as an individual, you can't have coverage from this.
And that makes sense.
So Victor, is that similar to the directors and officers insurance? Because if we don't have directors and officers insurance or some type of that, I want to resign from this board, because every other board I'm on, which I'm on 7 other boards, we have directors and officers insurance that cover me and my family if they come after me, if I'm working in the capacity of the board. If I run somebody over in the car while I'm drinking, that's not covered in that scenario. So can we get an answer to that question? Because that to me is very important.
Yes, I can when Nick comes back, I'll let him explain the policy.
Great, thanks.
I think that basically what he's saying, Tim, is that any decision any of us make as a DDA member, we are covered. We are just not covered if we're a DDA member and run somebody down.
And that I'm agreeing with, because I'm not planning on running anybody down or even drinking and driving.
I mean,
I've seen that Kyle's on there. I'm making sure he hears that. I'm a good boy, Kyle.
There's more to that in the sense that if someone sues you for a libel statement that you made in an open session at a DDA or some kind of slander, you are not covered. Let's say you say, that person, burned down my business, and then someone sues you for saying something in an open session that wasn't a DDA decision, you will not be covered by any insurance policy. So even though you said at a DDA meeting,
I get that. It wasn't a DDA action.
you are acting in your own capacity when you did that, not as a board. So
I
it's
get
more
that.
than just putting down someone and drinking outside of DDA. It's if you're slandering someone or libeling someone in your official capacity, but not as it wasn't a board action or board movement. You're just sitting here yelling at someone or something like that, and they sue you for
Okay.
that.
So I guess the verbiage in that insurance policy, if I could look at that, that would be wonderful.
I'll get that.
Without
I'll let
going-
you know.
Without going line by line, I think we will eventually have to, when we look at our 2020 estimated actual. According to the last that I got from Margot, we only made $2,000 on the Ice Fest.
Now, what I understand with that, Jody, from when Nick and I talked last night, some of these accounts are fluid for him. And now when he comes back, we can ask him. I think things have been earmarked into different, like if for his accounting purposes, what we've seen as far as what's come through as what would be a profit for us on Ice Fest. Let's clarify, but that's just what I got when he and I talked last night about that he can readjust and move things around within the DDA accounts and the way he has attributed some of it.
Yeah, but then it's almost impossible for us to budget singular events if money is going to be moved around after the fact.
I agree,
mean-
and we can rejockey for the under the correct things, and I think that's part of the reason why we created the finance committee, that we can meet instead of trying to deal with this after the fact, that we can be an ongoing process and looking at those numbers, because I do think there is some inconsistency between the, what we think is an account and where it's getting attributed.
And just
Don't
to
you all-
let the full board know, the budget committee met yesterday and we're going through the budget line by line, which I don't recall we've done before. And we just have had questions, good questions that we're getting answers to so that we can put together a budget for the city council to review, to know we've done our work. We just have some
So-
questions left.
As far as I know, Nikki, to the best of your knowledge, don't you remember $5,000 being the number that we brought to the bottom line for the Ice Fest?
I
It was-
have it right here. Hold on one second.
It was
Let me-
somewhere between 4 and 6, yes.
Okay.
I have it. Let me share it with you. Hold on, I've got to go to my screen sharing them.
I have it too. I just I didn't know what happens when I go into a file.
Okay, it's right here. So can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Came in at income of 22,671 with expenses of 1679 with an income profit of 5,922.
That's a great event. I mean, making $6,000 is great. It's too bad that COVID hit, and still making $2,000 in a COVID year, if that's what the numbers end up with, is a great event too. And more importantly, it's hopefully going to bring people into the stores downtown and the restaurants, or at
Yeah,
least for takeout.
But if you remember,
That brings up an insurance question though, Victor. Is there been any discussion about COVID insurance? Like, let's say we put 20 sculptures downtown and somebody's standing next to somebody and gets COVID. Can the city or the DDA be sued for that?
I think the state took away all of that from businesses. and
Yeah, I was
entities.
gonna say, from a business standpoint, I don't think that's a thing, and it wouldn't really be, Bonnie would be able to answer that well, because it's not gonna be any different than putting out the skeletons that happened in
Yeah.
the fall.
Exactly.
So I don't think that would necessarily, obviously we aren't trying to promote a huge crowd. I don't think that that's gonna be smart in February. you know, just giving people who want to walk through town something to do, but advertising and anything else, all of that just needs to not happen. We need to, you know, just let people know there's some really great sculptures. Individual businesses need to let people know if individual restaurants are open and want to do, you know, a chili theme, they need to advertise that, not under the umbrella of this event, because I don't think that we need any bad press when it comes to what we're trying to do with this event, or the lack not of it being an event. So I don't think that drawing the amount of people that we had last year is even relative to what we're going to be able to do, or should do.
I think Nikki is right, and about regarding potential COVID insurance, that's really not a thing that we need to worry about. What we really need to worry about is getting fined or penalized for violating any health department or state order. So that's
And I agree. And that's where if we're going to have, you know, if businesses want to, if the pier is open and they want to put out a chili cook-off that weekend, they need to advertise that. We do not need to do that. We are putting out sculptures for people to walk through town and look at. And that is literally all we're doing. Because if we do anything else, we are putting ourselves out for a massive fine that will happen. And it's not something that we shouldn't even be thinking about doing.
No, our liability is if someone catches COVID at an event, whether they catch COVID or not, at an event that we hold that's violating any guidelines or orders, we're responsible for that. So that's the kind of insurance that the state basically has on COVID. Like, you know, you will be held responsible if a COVID outbreak happens at an event where you're violating the orders. So that's where we potentially our liability. It doesn't. So for example, if someone came in City Hall and had COVID and someone else caught it, we are not liable at City Hall for someone catching COVID, as long as we're following the protocols mandated by the state, such as mask wearing, social distance, et cetera, et cetera. So insurance for COVID is not a thing really that we need, but it's a good question.
And speaking of that, Bonnie, Frank, my skeleton got COVID. He got tested positive.
And you better put
You
him
need to quarantine.
away.
I did. He's in the basement.
Next seated Buddy could be at risk behind you as well.
That's true. He could be.
Yeah, Buddy needs some clothes. He looks
That's
like the backside of
he's
a
dressed up in
hospital.
the Elfa costume.
Yeah. I think Jody's question, and I'm going to go back to that, is that in the budget you sent to the budget committee last night, Margot, it shows that we had, we did only have a $2,000 profit on the Ice Fest. And what you just showed us was more.
And that's where we need to talk with Nick. That's what he and I talked about last night, about that some of those accounts where he attributes things is different from the way we're attributing either revenue or expenses. And I think, and that's what I was saying, that I think that's why it's important for us to be having to meet with the finance committee regularly. And then we have a better sense, because obviously this hasn't happened, you know, this wasn't a process that had been happening before. And so now to go back, you know, 6 months later, we don't know which accounts they've gone into. And I think as we're doing it a little bit, you know, in a more timely manner with it, we can on top of that. But I can move on to the finance committee now if we would like.
Do that. I found some information from Nick on the insurance just to follow up the question that Tim was asking, if that's okay. Public officials are covered for neglect of duties, zoning, defense, and land use litigation, malfeasance, discrimination, employment practices, cable TV broadcasting, but they're not covered for in their official role if they're doing something where they're legally profiting, intentional acts with knowledge of wrongdoing, things of that nature. So what you're really covered for is neglect of duties, zoning, defense, land use, malfeasance, discrimination, employment practices, misfeasance. So there's a list of things that you are and aren't covered for as a public official.
Okay.
As an individual, right, Victor?
Yes. So for example, if someone decided to sue Jody because she did not, as a committee member, did not accurately keep track of the budget and misappropriate accidentally some of the budget items, and they sued you for that, you'd be covered. However, if someone sued Jody because she pocketed $1,000 from the DDA funds, you are not covered.
Okay. Okay.
Does that make
That's an
sense?
unfortunate example, Jody.
Sorry, Jody.
Victor, this might be something that all of the boards and commissions are reminded of once a year.
Yep.
I don't think we've had this conversation before, and it is something we just need to know. Or maybe in a first of the year intro packet to everybody, just as a reminder, here's where you're covered. Okay, Margot, you want to dive into finance?
Okay. Yes. So as you've heard, the Finance Committee met and we have hopefully finalized the budget. We're going to look at that and that will be submitted to council on Monday if we are in agreement on
some of these questions.
On all of this. So let me pull it up and hold on one second. Where'd it go? Hold on. Sorry. It was maybe disappeared since we had just looked at it. Okay. There it is.
Margot, really quick, Nick also found out about that $1,000 that was budgeted for 2020. It was in 2019, we had $858 for the red, white, and brew. And so when we budgeted 2020, we thought we were going to have the red, white, and brew event. So that's why there's 200 budgeted for a lot.
Great answer.
That makes sense. It's kind of what Nikki was saying.
Yeah, good answer.
We do have to have insurance for the chili cook-off portion of it. And we had a liability rider for that, and they just roll it into the city's insurance bill, and it's been paid for at the general fund level. So that was only for the chili cook-off.
But was that $1,000, Nick?
It was.
No, I haven't had a bill for that. They just rolled it into the city's $100,000 liability policy. No, I would guess $200. It was not anything that showed up in the DDA books. Let's go to put it that way.
Good. Okay, Margot.
Okay.
Educate us.
Can you see, because everybody see the screen, you may need to move your pictures of everyone on Zoom. You might need to move it over so that you can look at the 2021 recommended budget line items. Okay. So we're going to start where we were in 2020, which was at 39,000 for the TIF. We are projecting for 2021 that our TIF projection will come in more about 3% higher. We decided so we budgeted 41,700. The assessment will stay the same at 45.9. Do you want me to, I don't know, do you need me to highlight it or can you see it?
We can see. I like the box going down there. Hey, Margot, can you just do one of either, or maybe Nick can? Can you give me the definition of estimated actual? Because that to me seems like an oxymoron.
I'll let Nick do that.
The 2020 budget in column M is what we set way last year at this time. So as of yesterday, the 2020 estimated actual year-end balance, I would call that in probably an amended budget amount. So we were expecting 20 grand from property taxes TIF, and we ended up actually bringing in $39,000 as of December.
But since
so that's
2020,
actually actual.
But 2020 hasn't finised yet, so
But it's not
with
done,
this,
yeah.
Nick is expecting by December.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So as of date, so as of
Today.
whenever that we had these numbers, it was 39, but that could actually be 30 or it could be 40 or whatever. But,
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
okay, thank you for explaining that, guys.
Okay, then we'll just move down. Delinquent penalties, we budgeted for $50. Interest, oh no, wait, that's grants. Grants, we received the grant this year for $5,000 from the Petoskey Harbor Area Foundation. We don't know whether there's going to be something else that's going to come up in the next year, but we're going to keep pursuing grants. So we budgeted $2,000 for that. Interest, Nick, you can answer that. We did wonder yesterday where the interest is. Is that just coming off of the bank
Yeah,
account?
Bank account.
all of our funds are in interest-bearing accounts. And how the city allocates interest is whatever the cash balance is, for instance, the DDA, the cash balance in the general fund, the cash balance in the electric fund, the interest we've received on all of our monies is allocated based on a percentage of the total. So last year, 2020, we actually had, you know, some fairly good interest. Interest rates were up, and then immediately in February, or 19 rather, then they tanked.
Mhm.
So we're back now. I don't expect to have a bunch of interest income across the city as a whole for 2021 unless something
So
changes.
should we even bother with $100 in the interest income column?
I always, you will have something. I don't like to budget, you know, $28.55, that kind of number. I put a $50 or $100 bill in there and then adjust it down to actual, like you see at the 301 when you get to this time of year. Then we amend the budget to what it really is. You can put 0 in there and we can adjust it up.
So like, since interest rates are so low right now, I mean, maybe we should change that to $50, because I mean, you're probably at 0.01% or something.
On the revenue side, I would, if it do anything, I would put 0. And then if we end up with $30 or $40, $50, then that's revenues that we.
Okay,
Okay, we'll take your advice, man. You're the expert.
we'll change
don't know.
that to 0.
0.
Okay. We will not have the Brew Fest this year. And then that puts us at Ice Fest. What we budgeted for the 2021 Ice Fest was $8,500. That is selling 20 small sculptures along with the ice throne. And budget on that. I don't think it included any other revenue from that.
It did not.
So if we were to get that $1,000 that I know Amy is working at for the Petoskey Visitors Bureau, we obviously can add that in there.
So Nick, can we ask you, we made, according to our budget that we wrote, the Ice Fest budget made $5,900. If you look at the estimated actual at 22, and you look down at the at what we spent, we only made $2,000 according to that budget.
And your question is why the difference between what you see on your ledgers that you keep for Ice Fest as opposed to what I have here?
Yes.
Yeah, you show it basically at, wait a minute, can you scroll down? Is that a $2,000 loss?
No.
$2,000 gain.
$2,000
Net.
bottom
Net.
line net.
Oh,
Yeah.
bottom line.
Right. And the reason for that is the city's books, when we started expanding all of these accounts, we had pretty much everything in contractual services when Rachel was here and even into the beginning when Margot started. And then the DDA decided, which I think is great, to break these things down by function, whether it be wayfinding or Brewfest or whatever it is you guys are doing. And then we can know exactly, well, in the beginning of this year, there's possibly some of these expenses that are sitting in the Ice Fest expenditure line item that should be contributed to something totally different. But I can't sit and look at those numbers in each account and know what it is for McDonald Garber Broadcasting.
Okay.
Or I don't know. So this is something with you guys' finance committee, now that you have one, I would like to see some involvement, maybe even on a bi-weekly or even a monthly basis for you guys to sit down and look at, okay, here's the stack of bills that the city just paid for the DDA last council. Here's what they're for, to make sure that we know what we're doing, supposed to be doing on this end with these bills, because we get a bill for DDA. I don't know what it is.
We need
It
like a
goes-
QuickBooks account for the DDA is what it sounds like. Basically how to break it down, right? Like just to say, okay, this was advertising for this, this was.
Well, and it just, because as of right now, I'm the only one that sees the bills for the most part. I mean, Margot will get some email to her and she'll give them to me, and then I just put them where I feel they need to go. And that's obviously, I don't know what everything that you guys are doing. So I see a bill from, Carter's Imagewear or beanies with hat balls on them or something like that.
Okay.
I would assume Ice Fest.
I agree with you 100%, Nick. We can either do it biweekly or monthly, whichever you say. I think if you do it that amount of time, it's not like it's going to be like 5,700 bills. It's going to be very small, and we can just make sure we stay on track. And if there's an anomaly, we can talk about it and bring it to the DDA. And
Yes.
then we can even, in the DDA meeting, we can say, okay, the finance meeting went over bills, kind of like the city council does. We review the bills and we say pay them.
And we
I
should
think
have a
that's-
copy, we should have a copy that we keep in a folder of the DDA expenses. Cause it's not that big.
No, and I think that's a really good idea, because if we're gonna go forward doing any kind of events, I mean, Jody makes a good point. We have a pretty big discrepancy between what Ice Fest, made and then what it's showing on paper. I mean, the money's there either way. We just don't know where it's at per se. But I think if we're going to go forward with events, it would be nice to know, okay, well, this made this, we could build here. And it would just be good to know from that committee standpoint of where we spent, last year, okay, we spent, throwing out a number, $3,000 on advertising. Okay, we need to pare down this event. Maybe we can look at doing this, or did we get, you guys know what I'm saying. So I think that would be a really good idea to know if we're going to do events and we're going to grow the events and maybe bring back something like Brewfest, because that actually made more money than the Ice Fest did. It would be good to know what we're looking at, because events could be a good source of revenue for this board, since we don't really have any other forms of revenue other than TIF
And it could be as simple as we meet every other week and Nick says, I have no DDA bills, and Margot says, you're correct, I have nothing in my folder. Okay,
Yeah.
we're good.
Yeah,
I think even meeting once a month would be fine.
I agree.
I
We don't have that many.
only do my bills for my business once a month.
Yeah.
And potentially we don't even have to meet. I love seeing all you guys, but if Nick's okay with this, if he sends out us an email that says, hey, by the way, there's no bills this time, or hey, by the way, these are the 10 bills, where do you want me to, I'm coding them here, is this correct? And then the people on that committee say thumbs up or thumbs down, and then report to the board.
That's what I meant. Like, the finance committee gets the bills ahead of the board meeting. The finance committee goes over them. They present it to the board at our monthly board meeting, and we move on from there. But at least the bills would be allocated in the correct line item to make sure that they're, because we, like Nick said, we're the ones that know where we're spending money.
Exactly. I got a client in the door. I'll be right back.
That makes things a little challenging.
Nick, I have a calendar year question. We've already collected $5,000 or $6,000 this year, 2020, for the 2021 event. Where will those revenues appear? In 20 or 21?
In 20.
That's what I thought. So we keep that in mind as we look at these numbers, is they will not completely line up to what we show as our budget, because same thing happened last year. We got a lot of that money in December.
Well, but that's also will be good to know with the finance committee, though,
Exactly.
that we'll know that going into it, And we'll know that it's not going in as a fund to that,
Correct.
that event as a total, that it's going in as a yearly budget, which, you know, makes complete sense.
Yes.
But can we not have that as what we call here in our corporation an advance deposit? A fund that you draw from that, okay, so he doesn't move it till the end of the year, but through December, we have $3,900 in Ice Fest, and then move it over, and that's it, advanced payments.
Yes, that's possible. I mean, if you take payments in December for an event that even March or May, who knows, if you're taking deposit, then that could sit as an asset, as a deposit for future events. My fear is, not necessarily a fear, is the more line items and things we have going on here, the more room there is for error and just time consuming.
I think for this is the only event at the moment where we're going to cross years. As long as we know that, when we look at our numbers, I think we can work with it.
My thoughts was on collecting the money for Ice Fest is the same thing happened last year. So
Correct.
December 2000, I think it was $2,200 in December or October, I don't know, for Ice Fest. And then next year at this time, we will collect similar amounts for the following 2022 year. So if we just stay consistent one way or whatever way we decide to go, if we stay consistent, it should be relatively consistently the same amount year to year. If that makes some kind of sense.
It does make sense. We have a lot more to go through and we're already at 9:11. Can we continue to work through this budget and answer some of these questions on the side?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I ask a question? So let's say that things go really well and we get our back pay for the TIF from Emmett County. Does that show up in here somewhere, or that'll be a next year thing where we'll get the money?
No, that is not included in the 2021 budget at all. It's not something we can rely on, so we couldn't budget it. And given this way the state of things are, it could be a lawsuit going forward. So we did not consider that revenue at all.
That's a good idea.
Got it.
The revenue will appear as actual when it appears.
It'll be a really good
Yeah.
thing.
All right.
All right, Margot,
So-
keep going on the
Okay,
budget.
moving down. Contributions, last year we had $4,700 in contributions for the picnic tables. So we just budgeted $2,000 for the coming year, hoping that we may do some fundraising efforts. $0 in general transfer fund, general fund transfer, and then $100 for miscellaneous revenues that might come in. So that's where we are with our 2021 at $100,350 for the 2021 revenue. Okay, and we move into salaries, which we budgeted for $35,100. We increased basically my hours. We didn't increase my wage. It just as if my hours ended up being more than what I was working this past year.
And we only increased them 5 hours. We went from 20 hours a week to 25 hours a week, just because it seems as this job is exploding bigger and better things, and we just need more and more of those time, and she's willing to do that. So that's where that came from.
Yeah, and I just want to
that-
remind the DDA that with Margot's hours, increasing them is fine up to a certain point, because once she hits a certain amount of hours, which I think is 30, then we potentially could run into benefits and issues. So to keep her at part-time, just thinking forward the next few years, if that's something that the DDA wants to do is eventually make a full-time position, that's fine. But at this point, that'll change things once you get past 30 hours or so. So just keep that in mind.
And thanks for bringing that up. And we did talk about that. Margot brought that up, that she had talked to Nick, and there is a cutoff point, whatever it was, 28 hours or 30 hours, whatever. So thanks for bringing that up, and we will keep that in mind, Victor.
Thank you.
Moving on, the Social Security, that would be for my Social Security, then workman's comp. We budgeted $100 for office expenses, $100 for postage, and $750 for operating supplies, just from, obviously from whether it's different events, things like that we need to do, flyers or whatever. We went with $9,000 for contractual services. We went with this number. We increased this from yesterday when we had talked, because Nick said we needed to move the $2,000 for consulting fees into contractual services, because those people couldn't attributed to wages because they were not city employees. Then we left $7,000 also for if we ran into a situation like the lighting and we needed to use benchmark or any project that we are wanting to go forward on in 2021. Wayfinding, we budgeted $1,500, particularly we've already have a quote to redo the directories, the 18 directories in town, and they believe we said they were 1,200. So that's just wayfinding foreseeable costs that we're going to see for 2021. $6,530 in expenses for Ice Fest. That's again with 20 small sculptures and the ice throne, looking at what we had come up with that budget.
And does that include their travel expenses?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yep.
Margot, this is Denny. Does that include the bases too?
No. Well, it does for them, but they only brought the bases for the time that they were here and set them up, and then they took them as soon as they left. So if we want to do something else, or I know you suggested going to the transfer station and seeing about using the recycling bins, things like that, that is not included. We would have to look for either those to be donated to us just for the use for the weekend, or look at people building their own.
Okay,
Hey,
thank you.
Jenny, does those recycle bins, does the ice sculptures slide off of them because they're plastic,
Yeah.
or do you put something on the top of it to keep it from sliding?
Yeah, we bought some fabric, and then we put fabric on there, and we held the fabric on there we put a bow. It looked really good. They didn't slide.
Did the plastic hold, I mean, just a quick question, did the plastic hold up with, I mean, those ice sculptures are like, some of the ones that they do are like 300+ pounds.
Oh, bigger than the ones at Toski's?
Yes.
And they,
Yeah, the small block sculptures they're about,
right.
They're not much shorter than I am. They're about
And you're really tall.
Well, not really, thanks, Tim. they're like right around 4 feet tall, and three of us couldn't lift it up.
Okay. I guess maybe you're probably gonna need something more secure.
My husband could probably make wooden blocks.
Well, yeah, I mean, Justin could too, but building supplies are so expensive right now that it's probably better not to try to budget that part in right now.
Have you seen my backyard? Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of board feet of lumber are back there.
Well, there we go.
I mean, that's something that the promotions or the enhancement committee can talk about, but just
okay, let's keep going.
Okay, 6,000, we spent 6,000 in 2020 on other events, and that was mostly that's the picnic tables. So we did budget $5,000 for 2021. Just we weren't sure what we were going to see this coming year.
Didn't we get contributions for the picnic tables?
Yeah,
we did, but it still comes out of an expense of the contributions are up in the.
Wouldn't there be a revenue item for that then if we got donations?
We did.
There is
$4,700, and it's up at the top.
Okay.
And it was,
Okay, I believe you.
Contributions right there.
Got it.
that there. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Let's see.
Good question.
$1,500 for marketing. Oh no. Where?
Yeah.
Am I at the same level? Oh, I don't feel like I am. Well, that was a good method. Oh, $1,500, excuse me, was us. We budgeted that in case we did choose to go with looking at that lot for Spring Street, behind on Spring Street, or not Spring Street, the Burley, the gates. When Cindy, I believe, did the research on that, we thought that the cost was right around that amount.
Yes. Be a great idea.
$2,000 for marketing, $1,500. We just left the same for the auditing expense. And I don't know, Nick, whether that is a number that needs to be adjusted or not.
No, that's a pretty flat number. You guys are considered a component unit of the city. So you actually have a little separate audit. It's folded into our audit, but they charge $1,500 to do it. So,
Okay.
and once they go higher than that, I'll shop elsewhere.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We did boost the legal expenses to 5,000, just looking at possibly where we might be going with 2021 with the Emmett County situation. So we did add more to that account.
Good idea.
$100 for DP and programming, which we think is like IT. Is that correct, Nick?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. 3,000 for education dues, things like that, and training. $500 we left as publications. This year we only at this point have, I think, spent 75 or 100.
Yeah.
So that may be a number that doesn't get used. And then 200 from miscellaneous expenses and 200 for administrative fees. That leaves us with $74,865 in operating expenses with a surplus of $25,485. Now, Nick added this in the for me last night, which we didn't have yesterday. And so this is showing yearly the beginning fund balance and where we're starting, and then where it end at the end of each year.
Okay.
That looks really good.
Okay, so if we're all okay with this, this just goes to council on Monday for their review.
Actually, council is going to get the entire budget on Monday, but the hearing will be on December 14th.
Okay.
They actually, yeah,
All right.
discuss.
Hey, Mario,
would
can you go
mind
back up to the
sending-
top?
Sure.
For the,
Margot, would you mind sending a copy of this to me? I don't know if anybody else would like it.
I will send it to the whole board.
Okay.
thanks. So, I mean, as far as projects, are we, besides those ones in there, I mean, if we want to do the projects on our list that we have slated on our down DDA authority, I mean, do we have money budgeted for doing a new project? It's something to think about. We don't have time today to dive into that, but I mean.
We did not budget it, Tim, but we know where we're standing with our fund balance at this point, if that's something that the board
Right.
wants to pursue.
What is on the slate for our next project? Does anybody, I know we talked about the Merchants Walkway.
I think Marina Park should be our next one.
Could I ask a quick question about income?
Yes.
And
Oh, do you want me to?
Have you had any, Margot, have you had any more discussions or any plans regarding income from the parking lot revenue?
That's what we were talking about with those gates at this point. We want to start looking at that, and that $1,500 that we were putting in as an expense for parking. That's where we're starting to look at putting those gates in and talking about that as the DDA
Okay.
board.
Wonder if we show
At
that
this
as an
stage-
expense, if we should show revenue though.
If you're investing in it, maybe you're counting, and it's a conservative budgeting if you're showing the expense and not the revenue. But as an overall plan, if you're going to invest in the parking lot, there should be a plan and an estimate as to how much you're going to generate from that. And I still think it could be significant.
I do too. I think that would be a really good, I mean, like I said, I would be the first knocking down people if I could get spots for my employees. I think it would be a really, really good idea, and and I think year-round businesses would use it, for their employees.
John and Margot, not to throw a wrench into any of this, is and the discussion may come up, is that parking lot was paved with DDA money, but the land was bought with general fund money. So if we're talking about having fees come from there, there might be discussion about what funds those fees should go to, because technically the taxpayers paid for that land and the DDA paid for the paving. So how do you split up the fees that get charged from there?
Well, this is one of those topics that has come up year after year after year, particularly after it got paved. And to me, that just sounds like a negotiation on the allocation of any revenues that are generated. If it was a shared expense to put into place, it should be shared revenue coming out of it if and when we ever get around to doing it.
And I agree. And I think that's where Tim's earlier comment comes into play, with trying to figure out where these lines are with who gets what, who's responsible for what. But I think it would be, really, really disappointing that the land was purchased, it was paved, for it to sit there for another year, not doing anything, when in the summertime we have a parking problem. I mean, we may not agree that we have a parking problem all the time, but we have one in the summer, and we have a parking problem for people who have businesses that have multiple employees that use multiple cars. So I think it would be a big missed opportunity if we don't try to do something with it by next season.
And including the expense side of it, without an estimate or a plan for the revenue side of it, just sounds like another piecemeal approach, which
I agree.
really get bogged down with historically.
Did we look at having stickers for the parking lot instead of doing the whole gate thing?
No, because they have to be enforced. And the
Yeah,
gate's
and
not
that's where
that
the
much
gate-
money.
Yeah.
No, I mean, people would park there, and then we've got Kyle having to write tickets and tow. No, the gate's much easier. And plus, you might have, if it's a remote inside the car and you change employees, you can just give them the remote and not have to pull a sticker.
And I'm sure I don't know if Margot sent it out to everybody, but when Cindy did, we looked at stickers, we looked at meters, and the gate was by far the easiest. It was the least amount of work on the city's aspect, and it was the easiest amount for people that were either going to buy a parking spot or have their employees do it. And I know that there was a huge amount of research that Cindy did going into that thought process, and the gate was a lot cheaper than any of us thought it was going to be.
So Margo, let's have a couple of us dive into what we could generate in revenue from this. And as we schedule this budget meeting we're already having with a few other people, let's put this on the list. Victor is correct that there was pretty clear conversations at the time this was paved that they were expecting the DDA to pay it back. I think it was in the vicinity of 60 grand. But let's just look at that and know, could we split that? Where are we? Until we get those answers, I think it's time for us to go forward on this paid lot. Let's just figure out how it works.
Well, and the revenue too that you make, I mean, it could even be that I don't know how the city works there, if this would even be something that would be possible, but it could be something where we pay them back X amount of dollars once it's generating revenue and then we keep part of it. We pay them back what they have, and then any revenue going forward is ours because we've handled that part of it. So, or like Victor said, it may be where we split it because they paid for the land, we paid for the maintenance or the whatever putting in the gate. But I think that would be some stuff that we could ultimately negotiate successfully with the city.
Can I ask Victor or Nick, do you know how much you paid for the land?
Jody, I can't remember that was before I started or just right when I started. For some reason, and I could be way off base, for some reason it seemed like it was 160 or 260.
I was just going to say the same thing. I thought I had heard a client of mine and I were talking. He's interested in doing housing, and he had brought that up a few years ago, and I thought it was like in the hundreds somewhere.
I can't remember, but a fair amount.
Let's dive into that offline here and just keep going. But
Yeah.
yes, John makes a good point. If we're looking at the expense, we need to look at the income, and maybe there is no income if we have to pay back the city. But let's get these answers.
All right, that moves us into my update, which is, I'm going to keep really brief. So the website is up. I'm going to share it with you.
Whoops, we just lost you.
You lost me?
Oh,
There you are.
There
Okay,
you are.
sorry. My computer does not have good sound. I'm sorry. Anyways, the website is up. I have been working full steam. The one thing that I'm still working on at this point is getting business pictures updated. It's a tedious process, and I, at this point, have to go online and find or Facebook or whatever and find a picture individually. So I'm going to just scooch through it quickly. So it is downtownharborsprings.com. It's now live. We are, oh, let me go. Sorry.
Do you want to go to home?
Yeah, we were not on home. Sorry about that. I have updated it to a winter, everything links to events, to different things.
Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks good.
Really great. Yep.
Yeah, it looks good. I think we can.
Events and yeah, so we're good. Oh, and I'll just show you the business directory. And this is where if you, that went to events. If you have a picture particularly that you want for your business or know of people, please get them to me, because at this point, again, as I said, I am searching, and so I'm not making any, just, it may not be what I will send out emails to the businesses again, and but this is where they're just still filling in.
Oh, you got mine. Perfect.
Looks really nice.
Hey, Margot,
Yes.
feel free to pilfer any pictures from us. I know
Okay.
that we don't have all of your people, but Angie spends a lot of time making sure that we get pictures that the businesses who are members. So
I think
feel
you've
free to
done a
take any
great
of
job,
them.
Margot.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Bonnie.
Yeah, they look great.
So we're live. I will now,
Yay.
I'm gonna figure out how we get boosted on the search engines and all of that. I have not done the deep dive into that yet, but we have a website. So,
Great. Yay.
Yay.
and I
So if
will
I
send you
search
guys
for the
all the-
DDA, it comes up?
Are you first?
No, I said if I search for the Harbor Springs DDA, does it come up?
That's what I was saying, Tim. I need to figure out and do kind of a deep dive to how we get boosted on those engines.
Okay.
Fortunately, I live with somebody that might have the answer for that.
Good.
So the link is there. I will email it all to you that we are now live and ready and
Great.
that's going.
Congratulations. This is a huge step forward.
And
Yes.
so we can just post that on our DDA Facebook page, right?
Yes. Now that we're ready, and you guys got the first look before I was going to post it.
Looks great.
Congratulations.
Next thing was wayfinding. We don't really have much of an update. The sign is the sign that was knocked down is being installed today. That is, I talked to Kevin, and he's bringing the Main Street kiosk to the DPW and just leaving it there for whenever that one's going to be installed. The bylaws are all set. I think now, Victor, if I remember, Nick just needs to sign those, and then Andy will post them, and they'll be incorporated with all of the other city bylaws. Is that correct?
Yep, they are signed. We'll put them on the website and email them out to Margot, and then you can send them to the board if you need to.
Great, thank you. And then the only other thing was we still have only received, we've paid out $2,400 in the COVID grant that we received. So we do need to make a decision of whether we keep beating down the doors of people or if we start giving money to other businesses that have already applied.
Did we put a deadline out there, Margot?
No.
I have not, but it's been a while since I've heard back from anybody that's shown any interest.
I'll maybe reopen it for even people that have already applied and allow people to submit, you know, more receipts and
Yeah.
go from there. I mean, we have to use it. It has to be used this way. You've
Absolutely.
asked every business. If nobody's done it, you know, open it up to the businesses that want to put in more. I mean, I'll put in more receipts. I mean, I know Jody has had an immense amount of money that has had to be spent on PPE. And I mean, I know I have too. So, I mean, if businesses don't want to take advantage of it, we can't knock down more doors than what you already have.
And we've talked about this for several months, and people they're the reasons. They either don't have the receipts or they don't feel right about it. We've done what we can. We've done really well. We got half of it taken. Let's just go back and look at extra receipts, Margot.
Do we want to set a limit? I would recommend maybe $500 per business. I mean, or what, how do you want to?
Well, we've given $200 per business to the handful already. Why don't we start at that 200 and then see where we end?
Okay.
So 200 more if people have more. And then once that happens, let's see what we've got left.
Okay. All right. Great.
Okay.
Have those been sent out? Because I haven't gotten mine.
Yours, Jody, I'm sorry, because yes, they have, but yours, remember from the last meeting, it got, for some reason, I did not have yours in with the last council meeting and they had to revote, they had to redo it with the bills.
As long as I didn't lose it. Okay.
No, I resent it and that's my fault. I apologize for that. But everybody else should have received theirs.
I have to run, you guys, so thank you very much. And
Yep,
I will.
and I think we're done. Thanks, Nikki.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can I ask one more question? Back to what are our projects? This is December. Are we going to wait till January to discuss that for next year? Or what are
Yes,
our
we should.
priorities?
Let's look at, in our January meeting, let's pull up our development plan and see where we put our priorities for next year.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Good idea.
All right, everyone, we've gone through an hour and 36 minutes and hammered through a lot. I think we're all just desperate for contact because we're shut up. So we've gotten through some great stuff today. And hopefully by the time we gather in 2021, we'll just be very happy to have 2020 behind us.
Victor,
Amen.
do we have any public comment on YouTube or the phone? I don't want to miss anything.
I'm on mute, but here I am. Okay, so nothing on YouTube. And I turned the phone off about 40 minutes into the conversation because no one joined.
Okay.
Great.
Great.
Good.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
More to
you.
come.
Have a good day.
Meeting adjourned, Kathy. And I